Mobility, flexibility, active, passive, what do all these terms mean? There seems to be a little bit of confusion in the fitness industry, and when we hear certain terms like flexibility, we think about passive static stretching. When we think about mobility, we think about more of dynamic warm-ups, mobilizing movements, cool downs, and so on. To me, in the FRC system and as a movement specialist and in my KINSTRETCH program, mobility means something a little bit different to us, and we use the term functional mobility. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve usable ranges of motion. So we're actually utilizing strength training concepts to improve strength and control at end ranges of motion. Now going back to that term flexibility, like I said, oftentimes when we hear it, we think about passive static stretching. An example would be kind of a hamstring stretch. We can get into this position and I can allow gravity and my weight to pull me into a stretch. And then I kind of just hang out here for however long I may be hanging out. So this is a passive concept. And this is viewed as just passive flexibility training. Now, the big difference between the type of mobility training that you'll see in KINSTRETCH and FRC is we can take this stretch right here and we can still utilize a passive stretch, but we always pair it with a strength training concept. So at this end range of motion, what I could do is I could create isometric force in different directions. One direction can drive that isometric force down, where I'm driving my leg continuously down into the ground, gradually building up tension to my greatest and safest effort. Another direction could be I could drive this up, doing the same exact thing, creating isometric tension. In one direction, I utilize certain lines of tissue. The other direction, I utilize other lines of tissue. And essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to place force and stress on these lines of tissue to create a strength adaptation, which is the most important thing when we're thinking about functional mobility, usable ranges of motion. So improving your movement capacity and your movement quality. And this is where it's going to play the biggest role to improving your athletic performance and your resiliency. So if all we did was that passive concept and you didn't develop great strength and control of that range of motion, you're essentially just opening up useless ranges of motion that's going to leave you more susceptible to injuries. A common example is hypermobile people. They have a ton of passive flexibility and very little strength and control over that range of motion, and they are just so susceptible to injury. So it's very important to minimize that gap between your passive and active. So we need to utilize strength training concepts at end ranges of motion to be able to do that. If you like this video, make sure to check out my website and my Instagram. I post a ton of free content on there. Make sure to check that out. It's linked in the caption. And always stay tuned for some more videos on this channel. Stay buttery, y'all. Peace.